You learned to read the room before you learned to read a book. You knew what mood your parent was in the moment you heard their footsteps. The sound of a car in the driveway, a certain sigh from the kitchen, the way a door closed just a little too hard, and something in your body would shift. You would become very still, very alert. Your whole nervous system tuned in like a frequency, scanning for what was coming, trying to figure out what you needed to do, who you needed to be to make things okay. And you got very, very good at it. So good that nobody ever called it a skill. They called you sensitive, dramatic, too much. They said you worried too much, felt too much, took things too personally. What they didn't understand, what maybe nobody ever told you, is that what you were doing wasn't weakness. It was survival intelligence. It was a child learning to navigate an emotional environment that was never designed with that child's heart and mind. And if you're watching this right now, something tells me you already sense that. You sense that the way you move through the world, the way you feel everything so deeply, the way you exhaust yourself trying to make everyone around you comfortable, it didn't come from nowhere. It came from somewhere very specific, very early, and very real. Growing up with emotionally immature parents, and when I say emotionally immature, I don't mean bad people, I don't mean villains. I mean parents who couldn't fully meet you emotionally, who were inconsistent, dismissive, self-absorbed, volatile, or simply absent in the ways that mattered most. That experience leaves marks, but not the marks people talk about, not the obvious ones. The marks I want to talk about today are the quiet ones, the ones that live in your patterns, in your relationships, in the way you talk to yourself when no one is listening. The hidden traits that developed inside you, not because something was wrong with you, but because something was missing around you. Let's start with the first one. And this one might be the most important thing you hear today. You became fluent in a language that has no words. Emotional immaturity in parents often looks like emotional unpredictability. One day things are fine, warm even, and the next day there's a chill in the air and you have no idea why. No explanation, no conversation. Just a shift in the atmosphere, and suddenly you're back to scanning, calculating, trying to decode the silence. When you grow up in that environment, you develop an almost supernatural ability to read emotional subtext. You can walk into a room and feel the residue of a fight that happened an hour ago. You can hear what someone isn't saying. You can sense when someone's smile doesn't reach their eyes, even when they're performing happiness perfectly for everyone else. You feel the difference between someone who's fine and someone who's saying they're fine. This is not your imagination. This is not you projecting or being paranoid. This is a real skill forged in real circumstances because your nervous system had to learn it to protect you. But here's the part nobody talks about. That skill doesn't turn off. You carry it into every relationship, every friendship, every workplace. You walk into a meeting and you're already reading 6 people's emotional states before the agenda even starts. You have a conversation with a friend and you spend half of it tracking their feelings, making sure they're okay, adjusting yourself to what they seem to need. You finish a dinner with someone and you're completely drained and you don't quite know why. Because they seemed fine, everything seemed fine, but your body processed every micro-expression, every shift in tone, every moment of tension they tried to hide. And you absorbed all of it. That exhaustion is real. And it started long before adulthood. The second hidden trait is one that might make you uncomfortable to hear, because it cuts close. You learn to make yourself easy to love. This isn't about being fake or manipulative. It's actually the opposite. It came from a genuine, tender, desperate place inside a child who needed connection and learned slowly that connection was conditional. That love came more easily when you were helpful, when you were quiet, when you didn't need too much, when you kept the peace, when you made the other person feel good. So you became the child who didn't cause trouble, the one who could sense when a parent was overwhelmed and would instinctively shrink or step up or disappear into their room without being asked. You became the emotional caretaker of people who were supposed to be caring for you. And the belief that formed underneath all of that, quiet and deep and rarely examined, was this: my needs are too much. My feelings are a burden. I am more lovable when I am less. You probably don't walk around thinking those words consciously, but you might notice their effects. You might notice how quickly you apologize, even when you've done nothing wrong. How you feel a flash of anxiety when someone seems even slightly displeased with you. How you give and give and give in relationships, sometimes way past the point of your own depletion, because somewhere in you there's still that child who learned that giving is safer than needing. You are not broken for this. This was a completely rational adaptation to an irrational emotional environment, but it's worth seeing clearly, because seeing it is the first step towards something different. The third hidden trait lives in the space between who you are and who you think you should be. When you grow up with emotionally immature parents, one of the most profound and painful things that happens is something researchers call emotional neglect. Not necessarily physical neglect, not always obvious neglect, but the quiet, persistent experience of having your inner world go unacknowledged. Your feelings weren't reflected back to you with curiosity and warmth. Your emotional experiences weren't met with "tell me more," or "that makes sense," or "I see you." Instead, they were minimized or redirected or made about the parent or simply ignored. So you grew up without a reliable mirror, without someone consistently saying, yes, what you feel is real. It makes sense. You make sense. And here's what that does to an empath specifically. Because you feel everything so intensely, and because no one was there to help you make sense of those feelings, you turned the confusion inward. You started to wonder if maybe you really were too sensitive. Maybe you really did overreact. Maybe your feelings really were excessive or irrational, because no one ever validated that they weren't. You developed a kind of chronic self-doubt about your own inner experience. You can feel something deeply and simultaneously question whether you have any right to feel it at all. This is one of the most quietly devastating effects of growing up this way. You learn to distrust the very thing you're most gifted at, your own emotional knowing. There's a fourth hidden trait, and this one I want you to sit with for a moment. You became someone who heals people without meaning to. This sounds like a compliment, and in some ways it is. People are drawn to you. They tell you things they've never told anyone else. They feel safe with you. They open up within minutes of meeting you. Strangers on planes, cashiers, colleagues who barely know you. There's something in the way you listen, really listen, that makes people feel seen in a way they can't quite explain. And you genuinely care about them. That's real. That's not performance. But here's what's also true. That magnetism, that open door quality you carry, it has a shadow side, because you were trained from childhood to be the emotionally available one in relationships that were never mutual. You learned to hold space for other people's pain without anyone holding space for yours. You learned to be the stable one, the understanding one, the one who could handle it, because you had to be. There was no one else. So now, even in relationships where mutuality is possible, you might find yourself defaulting to the helper role without ever meaning to. You end up being the therapist in friendships, the emotional anchor in romantic relationships, the peacekeeper in your family of origin, even as an adult. And you wonder why you always feel a little lonely, even when you're surrounded by people who love you. It's because connection has been flowing in one direction for a very long time. And the vulnerability of needing something in return, of letting someone actually see you in your softness and uncertainty, that can feel almost unbearable. Because somewhere in your history, that kind of vulnerability wasn't safe. Needing people led to disappointment or guilt or being made to feel like a burden. So you learn to need quietly or not at all. Now let's talk about what you can actually do with all of this, because understanding is only meaningful when it changes something. The first and most important shift is this. Start practicing the radical act of letting your feelings be true without needing to justify them. You have spent years, maybe your whole life, auditing your own emotional experience before allowing yourself to have it. Feeling something, then immediately questioning whether you have the right to feel it, whether it's valid, whether you're being too much. This is exhausting. And it's a learned behavior, not a reflection of reality. Your feelings don't need a court case. They don't need evidence. They are information from your inner world, and they deserve the same quality of attention you so freely give to everyone else's feelings. One practice that can help is something very simple. When you notice a feeling arising, before you analyze it or judge it, just name it. Not I'm being ridiculous and not this is just my trauma, just there is sadness here, or there is fear here, or there is longing here. Let it be true even for just a moment before you do anything else with it. That single practice begins to rebuild trust with yourself. The second shift is about learning the difference between empathy and emotional responsibility. You are allowed to care deeply about the people in your life without being responsible for managing their emotional states. These two things have been tangled together inside you for a very long time. You feel someone's pain, and the immediate next step, almost involuntarily, is to fix it, soften it, take it away, because that's what you learned love looks like. That's what you learned your role was. But here's what's also true. People are allowed to feel their feelings. Your friend is allowed to be sad without you rushing to make it better. Your partner is allowed to be frustrated without you absorbing that frustration and reshaping yourself around it. Holding space is not the same as holding the weight. You can be present with someone's pain without drowning in it. That is a skill, and it is learnable, even if it feels strange at first, even if it triggers guilt, which it probably will, because you were taught that not helping is the same as not caring. It isn't. The third shift is perhaps the most tender one, and it's this. Let yourself be witnessed, not performed, not managed, witnessed. Find one person, just one, whether that's a therapist, a friend, a partner, or even a community like the one in the comments of this video. One person or space where you practice letting yourself be seen without immediately pivoting to care for someone else, where you say, this is how I'm really feeling, and you stay in that vulnerability long enough to actually receive a response. You are so skilled at creating safety for others. You deserve to inhabit that safety yourself. And this is the part I really want you to hear, because I know how many years you've spent wondering if you're just too much, wondering if the depth of what you feel is a flaw, wondering if you'd be easier to love if you were different. You are not too much. You never were. What happened is that you were given too little reflection, too little emotional safety, too little permission to simply exist in your full feeling self without someone making it about them or minimizing it or using it against you. The sensitivity you carry, this deep, aching, beautiful attunement to the emotional world, it was always a gift, not a convenient one, not one the world has always known how to handle, but a gift. And the work now isn't to become less sensitive, it's to stop abandoning yourself in service of the people around you. You spent your childhood learning to make other people comfortable in their emotional immaturity. You don't have to keep doing that. Not in your friendships, not in your relationships, not in your own inner world where that old critical voice still sometimes says you're overreacting. You can gently and gradually begin to become the emotionally present parent to yourself that you needed and didn't fully have. The one who says that makes sense. The one who says your feelings are welcome here. The one who doesn't flinch when you're a lot. Because you are not a lot. You are exactly enough. And the world needs the kind of depth you carry. It just needs you to stop spending all of it on people and places that were never going to refill you. If this video said something you needed to hear today, I'd love to know what landed for you. Leave a comment below, even just a word or a sentence, because you'd be surprised how much it means to other people watching this to know they aren't alone. And if this is the kind of conversation you've been searching for, the kind where someone finally says the thing you felt but couldn't name, then stay. There is so much more here for you.